Welcome to Alice Just Alice 55. You're listening to an AI narrated audiobook of my original work, The Child the Sea Kept, written by Alice N. Smith. The chapter playlist is linked in the description below. Now let's begin. Chapter 6. Age 13. The Prisoner. The prisoner thought the girl was the softest thing aboard. That was his first mistake. He had been wrong about many things since dawn. He had been wrong when he thought the merchant ship could outrun black sails. Wrong when he thought the first warning shot would be the last. Wrong when he thought the captain of the pirate vessel would kill everyone once the cargo was taken. Wrong again when the pirates let the wounded live, stripped the dead, took the ledgers and brought him aboard with his hands bound behind his back. By then he had begun to understand that wrongness had weight. It sat in the belly. It made a man careful with his breathing. Still, when he saw the girl, he thought he understood her. She stood near the door of the captain's cabin, half in shadow, half in lantern light. She was 13 perhaps, though hunger or hardship had sharpened her enough to make age difficult to judge. Her dark hair was tied back. Her sleeves were rolled to the elbows. A thin scar crossed one knuckle. She wore no ribbons, no softness, no ornament, but a bit of blue glass tied on a cord and tucked beneath her shirt. A child, then. A child among wolves. The prisoner looked at her and felt, for the first time since the pirates boarded, something like pity. The captain stood behind his desk, reading the merchant ledger taken from the prize. He was a hard-faced man with salt in his coat and judgment in every line of him. Captain Elias Varick, one of the pirates, had called him. The name had passed among the captured crew like bad weather. Men knew stories. Men always knew stories after the danger had already arrived. The quartermaster stood by the stern windows with his arms crossed, watching the prisoner as if measuring how much trouble could fit into one bound man. Ansel leaned near the wall, quiet and ready. Silas lingered by the door, pretending not to look at the girl and failing. The girl looked at no one for long. That was what first made the prisoner notice her properly. Children stared at danger or hid from it. They clung, they trembled, they cried, or else they forced themselves not to cry and became more childlike for the effort. This one watched in pieces. The captain's hands, the quartermaster's belt, Ansel's boots, Silas's distance from the door, the ledger, the prisoner's bound wrists. The knife lying on the desk beside the inkwell. Then her eyes moved back to him. The prisoner straightened as much as the ropes allowed. The captain turned a page. Your ship was carrying more coin than cloth. The prisoner said nothing. The quartermaster said, "Answer him." The prisoner kept his mouth closed. He had been a clerk before necessity taught him to carry a blade. He had kept accounts, sealed letters, copied contracts, and learned which lies sounded honest when written in a careful hand. Silence, he knew, was sometimes worth more than denial. The captain looked up from the ledger. You have already told me enough by refusing that quickly. The prisoner felt his mouth go dry. The captain tapped one finger against a column of figures. Your captain was paid to carry something that did not appear on the manifest. The prisoner said, I do not know what you mean. That was badly done, the captain said. The quartermaster gave a humorless grunt. The prisoner looked again toward the girl. She had not moved. Her face had no expression he could name. No fear, no curiosity, no pleasure in his discomfort. That troubled him less than the pirates did because he had not yet learned better. He said to her, "You do not have to stand there." Every adult in the cabin went still. The prisoner realized at once that he had crossed some line, though not which one. The girl only looked at him. The captain's voice was mild. "You are not speaking to her." The prisoner looked back at him. "She is a child." "She is also not yours to instruct," the captain said. The prisoner heard the warning. He also heard something else beneath it, something possessive enough to disgust him. Pirates could dress cruelty in any coat they liked. They could call captivity shelter. They could call obedience loyalty. He had seen men do worse and name it mercy. He looked again at the girl. "Is that what they told you?" the prisoner asked her. "That you belong here?" Silas drew in a quiet breath near the door. The quartermaster shifted his weight. "Careful." The prisoner ignored him. The girl had not looked away, and he mistook that for listening. "My ship had passengers once," the prisoner said to her. "Families, children, people who did not sleep under guns or eat among murderers. You could still leave this. Whatever they have told you, whatever debt they claim, you are young enough that someone might take you in." The captain closed the ledger. The sound was soft. The prisoner kept his eyes on the girl, because looking at the captain suddenly felt less safe. "He is not your father." No one spoke. The ship creaked around them. Water whispered against the stern. Somewhere above, men shouted over cargo being moved from one hold to another. The ordinary life of the pirate ship continued as if the room had not tightened around a single sentence. The girl's gaze remained on the prisoner. For the first time, something changed in her face. Not anger, not hurt, not even recognition. Assessment. The prisoner felt it like cold water poured slowly down his spine. The captain said, "Enough." The girl looked away from the prisoner and toward the desk. The prisoner followed her eyes. The knife still lay there. He had noticed it when they brought him in. Of course he had. A plain working knife, close to the captain's right hand. Not ceremonial, not decorative, not meant to frighten. Useful. The sort of tool a man forgot was a weapon because it was always near him. But that was not the knife that mattered. The prisoner's own blade was hidden under his sleeve. That was the thing the pirates had missed, or the thing he thought they had missed. It was small, flat, and mean, sewn into the cuff beneath a strip of stiffened cloth. A clerk's knife, not a soldier's. Good for cutting twine, scraping wax, sharpening quills, and opening a vein if a man could get close enough. When the pirates searched him, they had taken the knife at his belt, the purse in his coat, and the keys from his boot. They had not thought to cut open the cuff. That had been his one comfort. Now the girl's eyes rested on his sleeve. The prisoner's breath caught. She knew. No, he told himself. Impossible. She had seen nothing. She was a child. A strange one, yes. A damaged one, perhaps. But still a child. The captain said, "Where was your ship bound after Port St. Orlan?" The prisoner forced his gaze back to the captain. "South." The quartermaster said, "Every liar sails south when he runs out of imagination." The prisoner tried to smile. "Then perhaps I am imaginative enough to be telling the truth." Ansel moved slightly from the wall. Not much. Enough. The captain opened the ledger again. You were carrying sealed correspondence in addition to coin. The prisoner said, Merchants carry letters. The seals were naval. The prisoner said nothing. The captain looked at him for a long moment, then said, There is a patrol being moved. The prisoner kept his face still. The captain's eyes narrowed. Not to hunt us, not only us. The prisoner had not meant to react, but some small betrayal must have passed through him because the captain leaned back slightly. There, the captain said. That was better than your answers. The quartermaster's mouth tightened. Where? The captain kept his attention on the prisoner. That is what he will tell us. The prisoner felt the blade against his wrist. He had one chance, not a good chance, not even an honorable one. But death had been standing in the room since he entered, and a poor chance still looked brighter than a rope. If he could cut the binding, take the captain, put steel to his throat, perhaps the others would hesitate. Men always hesitated when command bled. Even pirates. He looked again at the girl. She watched his sleeve. The prisoner tried once more, softer now. You see it, don't you? They are using you. They make you stand in rooms like this so men forget what they are. The girl's eyes lifted to his face. The prisoner said, You do not have to become them. The captain said, You mistake silence for agreement. The prisoner turned on him. And you mistake possession for rescue. The room changed. Silas muttered something under his breath. The quartermaster took one step forward. Ansel's hand moved near his belt. The captain did not move at all. That was when the prisoner acted. He twisted his wrist against the hidden blade, felt cloth part, felt the first bite of metal against rope. Pain opened across his own skin, hot and sudden, but the binding loosened. He lunged before the cut was complete, throwing his weight toward the desk, toward the knife, toward the captain. He did not reach any of them. The girl moved. Later, he would not know exactly how. One moment, she stood near the door. The next, she was between him and the desk, low and fast, too small to stop him, and somehow stopping him anyway. Her shoulder struck his ribs, where the boarding fight had bruised him. Her hand caught his wounded wrist. She turned with his momentum instead of meeting it. Pain flashed white. The hidden blade slipped from his cuff and rang once against the floorboards. The prisoner gasped. Eva had the captain's knife. He had not seen her take it. The room froze around the narrow line of steel, now resting against the inside of his forearm. Not pressed deep, not yet. Just enough that he felt the promise of it. The girl looked up at him, not frightened, not triumphant, waiting. The captain came around the desk slowly. Ava. The girl did not look at him. Blood slid from the prisoner's wrist down into his palm. His own blood. The cut had come from the hidden blade and the ropes, not from her, not yet. The quartermaster kicked the small blade away from his boot. Silas whispered, Saints. The prisoner could not stop staring at the girl. He understood then that he had never been speaking to softness. He had been speaking to a locked door and calling it a window. The captain stopped beside her. Enough. Eva held the prisoner's gaze for one breath longer. Then she lowered the knife. Only then did Ansel seize the prisoner from behind and drive him to his knees. The impact cracked through his bones. The quartermaster took the captain's knife from Eva's hand, not roughly, but with care enough to suggest he had learned not to snatch sharp things from her. The captain crouched before the prisoner. The prisoner laughed once, though it sounded more like a cough. You put a knife in a child's hand. No, the captain said. You brought one into the room. The words struck harder than the fall. The prisoner looked at Eva. She stood a few paces back now, hands empty, face unreadable. A drop of his blood had marked the cuff of her sleeve. He wanted her to wipe it away. She did not. The captain said, "Where is the patrol being moved?" The prisoner breathed through his teeth. The captain waited. The quartermaster said, "He tried for you." "I noticed," the captain said. The quartermaster looked at Eva. "So did she." The captain's gaze moved to the girl. For the first time since the prisoner had seen him, something uncertain crossed the pirate captain's face. It was gone almost at once, but the prisoner caught it. Fear. Not fear of her, fear for her. That unsettled him more than anything else in the room. The prisoner had expected cruelty. He had expected greed. He had expected the pirates to use the girl and call it necessity. Perhaps they did. Perhaps pirates could love a thing and ruin it at the same time. Perhaps that was worse. The captain said, "Take him below." Ansel hauled the prisoner upright. The prisoner stumbled as he was turned toward the door. His eyes found Eva once more. "You are becoming them," he said. The words came out bitter because he had nothing else left to throw. Eva looked at him. For a long moment he thought she would say nothing. Then her gaze moved to his bleeding wrist, to the torn cuff, to the place where the hidden blade had been. "No," Eva said. Her voice was quiet. The prisoner held still. Eva looked back at his face. "You saw a child. I saw the knife." That was all. Ansel dragged him from the cabin before he could answer. Below, they bound him properly. No hidden blades this time. No loose knots. No pity. He was put in a narrow storage room that smelled of tar, damp rope, and old wood. A sailor cleaned his wrist with vinegar and wrapped it badly. The prisoner cursed him. The sailor told him to be grateful the girl had not opened him from wrist to elbow. The prisoner said nothing after that. For hours he sat in the dark and listened to the ship. He heard feet above, laughter, orders, the scrape of cargo. Once Silas's voice passed by the door, telling someone that no, he had not seen the girl vanish from one side of the room to the other, and no, he would not swear she had not. The second sailor asked if she had drawn blood. Silas replied that the prisoner had done most of the bleeding himself, which was how fools preferred it. By evening, the door opened. The captain entered alone. The prisoner sat with his back against the wall, wrists bound before him now and throbbing beneath the bandage. "Come to ask again?" "Yes," the captain said. The prisoner laughed. "And if I refuse?" The captain said. "Then you refuse." The prisoner looked up at him. "That is all?" The captain looked at him. "No, but I dislike beginning with threats. Men become predictable when afraid." The prisoner thought of Eva's eyes. "You would know." The captain did not answer. A lantern swung softly in the passage behind him. Its light caught the lines at the corners of his mouth, the silver in his dark hair, the tiredness he wore like an old coat. He looked less like a monster in the dark. The prisoner disliked that. Monsters were easier to hate when they had the decency to look like monsters. The captain said, "The patrol." The prisoner closed his eyes. He thought of the merchant captain dead on his own deck. He thought of the letters sealed in blue wax. He thought of the naval officer who had paid them in coin and promises. He thought of the girl moving before anyone else had understood the danger. "You already know enough," the prisoner said. "I know there is a trap being laid," the captain said. "I do not know where." The prisoner opened his eyes. "North of Blackwater Shoals." The captain went still. "There are 3 ships," the prisoner said. "Maybe 4 by now. They were told you favor the channel there after raids." The captain watched him carefully. "Why tell me?" The prisoner looked toward the door, though Eva was not there. "Because she was right?" he said. The captain said nothing. The prisoner swallowed. His throat hurt. His pride hurt worse. "I thought she did not know what she was among. I thought I could make her see it, but she saw me plainly enough." The captain's expression changed in a way the prisoner could not read. "She does that," the captain said. "It was not pride, not exactly." The prisoner leaned his head back against the wall. "You should be ashamed of what you have made her." The captain stood in silence for so long that the prisoner thought he might leave. Instead, the captain said, "I am." That was not the answer the prisoner expected. The captain turned toward the door. The prisoner hated him then, not because he was cruel, but because he was not cruel enough to make the world simple. "Captain," the prisoner said. The captain paused. The prisoner asked, "What is she?" The captain looked back at him. For a moment the ship seemed to hush around the question. Then the captain said, "Alive." He left the prisoner with that. The next morning the prisoner was returned to the captured merchant ship with the other survivors, minus cargo, coin, letters, weapons, and certainty. The pirates gave them enough water to limp toward the nearest port, and enough sailcloth to repair what had been torn. It was not mercy, one of the sailors said. It was convenience. The prisoner stood on the wounded deck of his own ship and watched the pirate vessel pull away. Eva stood at the stern. She was small at that distance, a dark figure beside men who had chosen violence as trade and lawlessness as shelter. The wind moved her hair against her face. One hand rested on the rail. The cuff of her sleeve had been washed clean. The prisoner raised his bandaged wrist without meaning to. Eva did not wave. Of course she did not. She only watched him until the distance made her unreadable. Around him, the surviving crew cursed the pirates, praised God, counted losses, and argued over which port might take them in. The prisoner heard none of it clearly. He kept thinking of the way she had looked at him in the cabin after he had told her she was becoming them. "No," Eva had said, "you saw a child. I saw the knife." At first he thought she had only meant the blade hidden in his cuff. Now he was not so sure. Perhaps she had meant the lie beneath his pity. Perhaps she had seen that his offer to save her had been another kind of weapon, something he could use to make himself feel merciful while he waited for his chance to strike. He had never truly seen her at all. The pirate ship grew smaller against the morning sea. The prisoner stood with his wrist throbbing and his certainty bleeding through the bandage. By the time the black sails blurred into the horizon, he understood only one thing clearly. The girl had not needed saving from wolves. The wolves had learned to make room for her. Thank you for listening to Chapter 6 of The Child the Sea Kept. If you'd like to continue the story, the chapter playlist is linked in the description below. I'll see you in the next chapter.